Hey everybody, welcome to What's Up Wednesday. This week I want to talk about uh, intervention, getting help, getting support to sometimes make teams more functional. And what got me thinking about this topic was a documentary that we watched over the weekend about Metallica called Some Kind of Monster, I believe. Yeah, Some Kind of Monster. It was a documentary that was filmed while they were recording their 2003 album. And a lot of times the topic of one of these What's Up Wednesdays will come from something that occurs over the weekend or away from the job. And in this particular case, I think a lot resonated with me because over the years, I've seen a lot of dysfunctional teams, and I didn't realize in a way how dysfunctional the band Metallica is or was. I think they probably still are. But regardless, they were one of the biggest bands during the 80s into the 90s. And I was a bit of a rocker, back in those days, my late high school, early college days. Love bands like Metallica, and then the grunge scene with Nirvana and Alice in Chains and so on and so forth. And you look at so many of these bands, and with Alice in Chains, they almost forced Lane Staley out because of his heroin addiction and his unreliability. Obviously, with Van Halen, they forced David Lee Roth out and brought in Sammy Hagar. The Eagles forced Glenn Felder out. You see this dysfunction occur so often. And what was really interesting in this documentary is that here's a band who's been together for, this is 2003, so 22 years or so. And they have a lot of stuff. They've got a lot of really heavy, deep stuff that is affecting their relationships and their ability to function together. And they forced out Jason Newsted, their bassist. They forced him out, as well as, other early members of the band, because of differences of opinion and personalities and egos. I think ego is the biggest thing. But what was really interesting during this documentary is that I think a lot of those animosities between Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield, the lead singer and kind of the creative mind behind Metallica and all their songwriting, it was interesting to see everything kind of come to a head. And they did something that I would say that most organizations, in this case band, don't do, and that is bring in an intermediary, bring in an industrial psychologist, bring in somebody who can kind of mediate the relationship, get conversations going, get all that baggage or laundry out on the table so that you can actually deal with it. And I find that so often teams don't do that. What ends up happening is exactly what happened with Metallica, which is over many years, and in this case, tremendous success and money and everything that came with it. I mean, it's amazing the heights that they reached, but yet they had all this dysfunction dwelling beneath it all and really affecting, I think, the personalities and the attitudes and the happiness of the members. So you can really, you can see how it hit them. And again, so often I think within teams and within organizations, that instead of focusing on some way to bring somebody in to mediate and get people working towards collaborating towards solutions to their challenges, instead you get these factions of people who triangulate and complain, and it becomes a cancer. It really does. It undermines everything, and it can destroy anything. It can destroy the biggest bands like Metallica. Now, luckily, they've made it through all of that. It was a very rough period, and James Hetfield actually left for, I think, over a year to kind of go through rehab and find himself and figure some things out. And, they're touring together today, so they obviously made it through all of that. But, a lot of organizations, they don't, their teams don't. And it may seem strange to think about bringing in a third party, but I know I've seen it occur 2 or 3 times in my career in organizations I've worked with. And every single time the outcome has been very, very positive. I think that it allows people a platform to be able to speak their minds safely, even when the issues that they're talking about are not necessarily safe issues, if you want to call them that. They're very controversial. They're emotion filled. Sometimes they're very, very pointed at somebody else, and they can be interpreted in a very, very negative or personal manner. So being able to bring those things out and having that coach, I think, is tremendously valuable. And over the years, I've had a personal coach of sorts on and off for a long time. And I can't really describe the value, but it's tremendous. It's unbelievable being able to have somebody who could be your sounding board, somebody who can help you rationalize through things. And in this particular case, it was quite a documentary. And I'd encourage, again, if you like Metallica, the band, watch Some Kind of Monster. It was really quite good. And think about that in your organization too. If you have dysfunction, if you have challenges, bring somebody in to help mediate it. Bring somebody in who can generate a discussion that's going to result in positive outcomes and a fall forward approach to your team. I guarantee if you invest that time and energy and maybe a little money in doing so, it'll be very beneficial to your team. So hopefully you find that helpful, and we'll see you next Wednesday.